Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast for club owners, operators, and fitness professionals. Each week, host Bryan O'Rourke brings you an expert interview with a global influencer at the crossroads of fitness and technology. You gain the insights, tools, and inspiration you need to stay connected to the pulse for what matters most for your business in the age of exponential technologies.
Well, hello, listeners. I'm your host, Bryan O'Rourke. Welcome to the podcast. What's great about this podcast, it is our 150th, if you can believe that. That is a lot of podcasts. And today we have a special guest in Bob Esquerre, who is a very well-known fitness industry business consultant with a tremendous track record, helping a lot of brands. He's worked with great brands like Equinox and Spectrum, and he's spoken all over the world. He's been a mentor to many people in the business. We'll have his LinkedIn bio in the show notes and more about him. But before we bring Bob on, I wanted again thank the Gold's Gym Franchise Association for having me to keynote their event last month in Las Vegas. That was fantastic. And I'm very much looking forward to traveling around to CanFit Pro this August and to attend other events in Europe and the United States this fall. If you are out and about at any events, please reach out to me at bryankO'Rourke@gmail.com. You can see how to connect with me in the show notes. And I'd love to say hi and see you if you're out and about at one of these events. And I hope as well that you're keeping as cool as possible. During the summer months, I'm shifting to running outside in the evenings now. That's how hot it gets down here in the New Orleans area. But anyway, keep cool out there. It's been a pretty warm summer thus far. We're halfway over. So anyway, as I was mentioning, Bob is our guest. He and I are going to explore wellness. We're going to discuss technology, challenges in the space, and get his perspective. So without further ado, let's welcome Bob.
Well, hello, listeners. And as you heard in the introduction, we have a real treat today on our 150th podcast. And by the way, thank you all for that. We have had literally over 500,000 downloads since we started this. And it's fitting that Bob Esquerre would be our 150th guest. Bob, thanks for joining us. How are you?
Great. Thanks for the invitation. I mean, this is a pleasure for me. And for the folks I've been working with over the past 35 plus years in the industry. That's a real
Bob, as I was saying in the intro, again, thanks for being here. You've worked with some phenomenal brands. You have a great reputation. You've seen a lot happen over the years, from Equinox to Spectrum. I can go through a long list as I went through in the intro. But so you've seen a lot. What are you witnessing right now out there in the marketplace as far as trends that you see that are the most important in your view?
Okay, I'll say 3 words: challenges, challenges, and challenges. Now, with that being said, the challenge for us overall was we made the collective decision to become essential after we were shut down, which means we have to make that pivot from fitness only into health-focused and wellness-focused programming. The challenge there is that everyone says that. We also hear people saying, okay, we have to meet the customer where they're at. Absolutely agree. But no one says, how do we do that? And the focus for us is that given how we have the historical attrition rate, 40% average from the United States standpoint, globally, plus or minus, we agree. If we bring in only 20% of the US population, for example, and we have an attrition rate of 40%, we are really non-essential. And I totally accept that. So we have to make some really drastic changes. And some of those changes are really emotional. We have to say what we did in the past may not have been right. So therefore, we have to do something new. But that decision is very emotionally embedded. So there's an emotional situation with the owner, the managers, the staff members, the group exercise instructors, the personal trainers, and guess what? The consumers. So all this emotional stuff is going on. How do we control that? How do we manage it to be able to take our teams on a different path to success? And as we go with the teams, how do the teams embrace and meet those consumers and take them on that same journey, get them into our facilities, in front of us, get them to come in, to stay, but more importantly, to refer. That is a dramatic challenge. And it's difficult. And some folks are doing it really well, but the majority of folks are having struggles because of this emotional concept that I'm talking about.
And so when you talk about that in the granularity of how you actually make it happen, and I think you're right, Bob, that's the challenge. Let's talk about staff right now. I mean, you've been around a while, you've seen a lot happening, and what it takes to realign your staff to what the role of the trainer, the role of the group fitness professional. Talk about that in the context of what you're referring to on health and wellness.
Okay. Now I have certain biases because I came out of group exercise. Okay. And that was a great experience. And I evolved into personal training, operations management, all that good stuff. But what happened with me going through group exercise in my first class, and this is going to resonate with everyone who's ever teach or taught group exercise. When you go into that first class for the first time, you have a platform to deliver. They don't know you, you don't know them, but we know we're good. Positive thinking. We're going to go in there knowing they're going to look at us and say, who is this fool coming in here, number one? Does he or she think they're going to help me get better at what I do? They give you those looks that's so deadly that we have to brush it off, walk in there, do our thing. We also know that there's folks there with different levels of competency. We have to successfully bring them all together around a specific time, around a specific day, around a specific experience to make them say, oh my goodness, that was fantastic. Who was that masked man that came in there? Yes, we want to be able to say that, and we embrace that relationship. All of a sudden, we're the best thing since Swiss cheese.
Right.
Which is great. Now, that's what I call an emotional connection. Group exercise folks, we're trained that way. Yeah. It's all about embracing and meeting those folks, getting them in, getting the referrals, having a packed class, and having a great experience before the class, during the class, after class. Now, that being said, fast forward, personal trainers, highly technical. Yeah. We acknowledge that. But the interpersonal skills, the emotional intelligence leaves a lot to be desired. It's suspect. It's shaky, and in most cases, it's not there. What I found over the years, the most successful personal trainers are those folks who have a group experience. Right. And now I agree. It's easier to go from group X to personal training than going the other way around. However, in my experience in my years, if a trainer comes to me and says, Bob, you're making sense. How do I become proficient in group exercise? And it's going to be difficult. They really have to want to do it, but it can be done if they want to do it. And those folks who I've worked with who made that transition, they said, Bob, I never want to do that again, but now I'm ready. I can do everything. I can do personal training. I could do group exercise. I can do small group training and make more money per contact hour than one-on-one. But more importantly, from a management standpoint, I'm able to touch more members now. That's the difference. My universe of touching people is totally expanded because I offer more services. And it's like, that works. That being said, we need to take our fitness professionals out of the back room and say, hey, they should be managing the onboarding process. We should be meeting and greeting. But wait a minute, the owner say, that means I have to compensate them some more for more money? And my response is, well, why not? We're doing a better job. If we're doing a better job engaging the potential customer, making the potential customer a customer that's going to stay and pay fees and give us referrals, you can't pay enough for that service. But every fitness professional who does that, they're doing a great, fantastic job. And it's probably the best kept secret across the globe. And my model for that is called a hybrid fitness professional because we do everything. Right. Now, those hybrids, like myself, we're a strange breed, but we've been out there for years and years hiding in the way. But now the pivot is forcing us to come to the front because we can talk to anybody.
Yeah.
We can engage anyone. But more importantly, if we're really, really trained well, it's not about listening to a potential client or a customer on the spoken word. It's the non-spoken word where our skills really come in at. So if I can hear something somebody says, but get beyond the spoken word and look at the emotional connection we have, that's so valuable. You can't pay enough for that. That's what we basically need. That's the challenge I see out there. And folks who are doing it well are doing it really, really well. Folks are struggling, but we can get them there if they open their minds up about this whole issue of listening and engaging. The umbrella, emotional intelligence, which is a very difficult thing to understand unless you really start getting into it.
Yeah. And so, Bob, with that respect, then your tenet is that, to really reach that point of delivering health and wellness services as a larger component of a lot of commercial facilities, that the staff and the way the staff is trained, the roles they play, all these things are a massive part of that transformation.
Yes. And the challenge is there's an emotional roadblock because they're being asked to give up what they used to. Yeah. And to get folks to move us out of their comfort zone, kicking and screaming. But when they do it, they're happy. But getting them to do it is the challenge. That is the challenge.
Where do you think the resistance comes in making that? Is it a function of money? Is it a function of mindset and the way people think about it? What do you see as the primary blockers to overcoming these things?
It's basically mindset, because the organization leadership may want to do it, but they're having a hard time explaining why we want to do that. Yeah. That's a challenge. So if the leadership is not engaged correctly or understand the reason for the shift, they can't convey it to their troops. And the issue is that we have two disconnects right there.
Yeah.
So leadership's got to be trained up to make it happen. And then once the leadership has it, then the regular folks inside, I get that. And I tell them a story about my mother. My mother's 92 years of age. Her workout outside a club is coming out of her apartment in Manhattan and going up a 45-degree incline. Her goal is, I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm not going to stop till I get there. And when she gets there, she holds on to the side of the wall and say, okay, that's done for today. For her to do that, that's her movement. That's her existence. But she wants to do it because she knows she wants to survive. It's that kind of dialogue that we have to have with folks. Yep. And when she tells me why she does it and I watch her do it, she gets up there, I'm behind her, we high five each other. She's happy, I'm happy. If mom's happy, the world's happy. It's that kind of relationship that we have to have with our potential customers and our existing customers that make them feel wanted.
Yeah. Bob, talk about technology, because over the years we've seen this seep into the discourse and the reality behind these customers. What do you see the pitfalls and what do you see the advantages there?
Well, the challenge is technology is great with a proviso. We need to use the technology with an emotional intelligence slant to it, not to scare people to death, but to convince them and help them in become engaged with it by saying, okay, this data is going to help us program better for you. Don't be afraid of it, because I use the same technology as your group exercise instructor or as your coach or as your personal trainer, and look at my numbers. So they have their numbers and I show them my numbers. I explain the differences and I explain using the technology how we're going to get them to the next level of success. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, let's go. All we have to do is have a conversation saying, okay, if you come to my spinning class, you have to wear a heart rate monitor. Well, why? Yeah. There's no explanation. You just have to do it. No. You have to explain it to people, make them comfortable. But I don't want my numbers up there. No. It's not a question of your numbers being up there. It's helping me as your coach evaluate where you are today so I can improve you the next week, the next month, the next year. Oh, we're going to do this all the time? Sure. And you're going to help me? Absolutely. Okay, let's go. No problem. But it's when we don't talk to them that we have the resistance. Yeah, that's part of the challenge. That's always fun. I don't want my name up there. Everyone says that, but it's like, as a group X person, it's not about the individual effort in that community. It's the collective. It's all about the collective. not just one person where they're afraid. There's no fear here. Trust me, we'll take care of it. No problem.
What have you seen? That's a great answer. What do you see as far as the makeup of instructors, both in Group X and personal training over the years? Have you seen a change in, the employment pool of people, the kind of the attitudes, are there different types of challenges today in the marketplace for professionals than there were 20 years ago?
Well, honestly, in the pre-COVID environment, we all thought we were invincible.
Yeah.
Until the club shut down. When the club shut down, all of a sudden we became entrepreneurs by default.
Yeah.
So they decided to, okay, if I stay on welfare, it's not going to make me enough money. So let me do my independent stuff outside. And quite a few of us were successful. Right. So they left. They're not coming back. So the experience is gone. And then we had a whole group that came up in virtual certifications.
Right.
Now, yes, they're credentialed, but they don't have that face-to-face, hands-on developmental experience with them. So if they come into our facilities with that lack of experience, it behooves management to say to my Group X manager, hey, I need you to start mentoring these folks up to make sure they deliver the expectation that supports our brand and supports our culture. And to the extent that the Group X managers do that, it works tremendously. Same thing, personal trainers. Again, they're all outside. They won't come back in. We have all these newbies. There's lack of experience. So it's critical for us to have in-club, in-studio training opportunities to get these folks up to speed, because it's not their fault. It's a circumstantial thing. So we have to create the next generation of outstanding fitness professionals. Absolutely.
Yep, you got to invest in that. So, Bob, given your background, which is, I mentioned in the introductions, pretty extensive, and given your observations here on the kind of pivot to health and wellness, the importance of having this kind of hybrid fitness professional and the skill sets they need to exude in the way they interact with members, the role of technology, and the challenges that we have today with recruiting and the kind of need for more training and mentorship. Given all those dynamics, and I know there are more, what are some of your pearls of wisdom, your advice that you would give professionals in the space now, operators, regarding how they should be thinking about their businesses?
Okay. We should look at our businesses as a group of assets that we have to manage. And among those assets is the facility, we agree. The management team, we agree. The staff, we agree. Your fit pros, we agree. But the biggest asset for us is the customer. The actual customer who belongs to us right now, we've got to keep them here. But we also have to create a culture or a sense of community to encourage people to come in. Because again, the sweet button and sweet spot buttons for fitness focus only people is totally different than folks who have a wellness focus and a health focus. So emotionally, the conversation changes from a fitness focused person to health and wellness. But regardless of what that group is, all the fitness focused customers thought they were all invincible prior to COVID. The shutdown made them feel, I have a problem. I am no longer invincible. I have mental issues. Absolutely. So everyone has a need for this shift to health and wellness, but we have to be able to be sensitive to it and bring them on a journey that makes them all feel comfortable. Yeah, they're still going to want to squat and all that good stuff for fitness folks, but then where's the recovery? Where's the flexibility training? Where's the yoga training? Where's the meditation training? All of that stuff is part of the programming. And then a lot of folks will say, well, I don't want to do that meditation stuff. And I say to my clients, well, you're going to meditate with me. Wait, you meditate, Bob? Yeah, every day. I have to find myself back in balance. Wait, you're an expert. Why do you have to do that? Because I want to stay healthy as my aging expertise gets old. And we laugh. We just sit there and we die laughing on the floor as we start the background music and just empty our minds. So those kinds of conversations, to the extent we put ourselves in there, is the extent that, well, if my trainer, my coach My instructor is doing that. Let's do it together. And by the way, I should bring my partner too. Yeah, and bring your kids.
Yeah.
The kids today, because of the shutdown, they're stressed out as well. So all of a sudden, it's a multi-generational solution. It's like, wait a minute, that makes sense. It also makes sense that my business base potentially can grow beyond the four walls that I have, beyond my brick and mortar. Wait a minute, I can bring this to the corporate area. They're all broken globally. So guess what? Our business model starts to change exponentially because our business base and our programming base and our skill sets shift as well. Whole different animal. Everybody wins. The clubs, the studios, the fit pros, the consumers inside and outside our facilities. Everybody wins.
That's great observations, Bob. I'm so glad that you were able to join us today. And I know we will have your contact information in the show notes. Bob, how can someone get in touch with you to talk about you helping them out with some of these things?
Well, my resident location is LinkedIn, and you'll have the information at the end of the show, and also on Facebook. And the challenge is it's all about networking. And if anyone has a question, my position over the past, I'm going to age myself, 74 years, has been there is no such thing as a bad question. If you don't ask a question, that's bad. But the question you're asking is not a bad question because you have a concern to get an answer to your question, which is fine with me. So give me a shout out.
Well, I appreciate that, Bob. I know the audience does as well. We appreciate so much you taking a few moments of time and sharing your insights and wisdom. I know we'll get a lot of follow-up for this, so thank you again so much for making time.
You're making me blush, Brian, but yes. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate that.
Hello, listeners. This is Bryan O'Rourke, and thanks so much for listening to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. The podcast is made possible by the Fitness Industry Technology Council, a consortium of global brands working together to enhance the adoption of technologies in the fitness space. Our company, Videri Ventures, which is invested in Vertimax, Montezuma, Gold's Gym, Houston, Texas, and Fitness 24/7 Thailand, also underwrites the podcast, along with our service companies, Integris Advisors, Moon Mission Media, and others. Please feel free to share this podcast with your colleagues. And if I can be of any assistance to you, don't hesitate to reach out, bryanko'rourke@gmail.com, or find me on any of the major social networks. Have a great day, and thanks for listening.